Sonic the Hedgehog is easily one of the most recognizable characters in video game history, and he was one of my favorite characters growing up. But to say that he's had a rough time lately is an understatement. And sure, Sega has had a couple of really shining examples here and there, like Sonic Generations, where we get to play through Sonic's history as classic Sonic, with classic Sonic gameplay. And we can also go back and play through those same levels as modern Sonic with the modern style of Sonic gameplay. Sonic Generations is actually a pretty great game. But then you have the lowest of the low, known as Sonic 06, where you can't get through any level without experiencing all kinds of unfun frustration, glitches, and just awful controls. But then we also have the games that are just weird. Sonic going into some kind of alternate dimension where he's a knight in the time of King Arthur, and another where Sonic is turned into some kind of werewolf monster called a werehog. I understand that Sega was trying to think outside the box with these ideas, but the Sonic franchise has really lost its identity over time. Thankfully, it does seem like Sega is listening to Sonic fans finally, and taking him back to his roots with Sonic Mania, coming out later this year. Gamers are passionate about the franchise they love, and there's one group of gamers that's so passionate about the franchises they like, that they went as far as creating their own video games. These fan-made games are usually labors of love, released for free for people to enjoy, and they're often stupidly frowned upon by the eyes of the big companies. The original Castlevania was being remade using the Unreal Engine, and the original Metal Gear was also being revamped, going as far as hiring the original voice of Snake, David Hayter. Both of them were shut down by Konami before they could be completed. We also had a full remake of Metroid 2: The Return of Samus, called AM2R, and a completely original Pokemon game called Pokemon Uranium, which were both completed and released for free. Nintendo shut them both down too. But those two can still be found online, so make sure you download them and check them out. I understand companies trying to protect their brand, but not every use of their intellectual property is a threat. These fan-made projects can bring a huge amount of attention to your brands. One company that does it right and embraces fan creations is Sega. They've been very open lately about encouraging fans to create original projects. They even commented on a YouTube Let's Play of a fan-made Sonic game with BRB, DMCA time. Just kidding. Keep making great stuff, Sonic fans. And they've gone as far as hiring fans to work on projects, like Christian Whitehead, who's a longtime Sonic fan, and he was hired as the main programmer for Sonic Mania. I guess Sega does what Nintendo don't. Just recently, another Sonic fan game was completed and released, Sonic Time Twisted, made by Overbound Games. After playing through the entire game, it's undeniable how talented these guys are. The game's available online and it's completely free to download. What made the classic Sonic games so memorable was the super fast speed and cool boss fights. And one of the finest examples of Sonic at his best is Sonic CD. And although it's a fan-made game, Sonic Time Twisted feels like a love letter to Sonic CD. It has the quality of a Sega-produced Sonic game right out of the early 90s, and borrows a lot of the features initially introduced in Sonic CD. The story takes place in an alternate timeline where Sonic has defeated Dr. Robotnik, and Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles are destroying what's left of his robot army. But his loyal creation, Metal Sonic, one of the most badass looking characters in video game history, took control of the remaining forces and is trying to use ancient alien technology to resurrect Dr. Robotnik. By the way, I love that they refer to him as Dr. Robotnik because I refuse to call him Eggman. It's Dr. Robotnik. And the story's told in these drawn cutscenes, and these are the only parts of the game where it kinda took me out of the experience since the quality is so different than the rest of the game. This is a small nitpick because I understand this is a fan production and they could have easily had no story at all. Classic Sonic games didn't even have stories outside of what you read in the instruction manual, so I do appreciate that they took the time to have these little cutscenes added in. You do have the ability to play as Sonic, Tails, or Knuckles, but I always like to play through these games as Sonic when I'm given choice. There's a nice variety of stages, each looking different from the rest. There's a futuristic city sprinkled with a dash of Casino Night Zone from Sonic the Hedgehog 2 called Attraction Attack Zone. The icy, frigid fortress zone is full of energy balls that launch you into all sorts of different directions. Tidal Tube Zone is the expected water level, and it's got a fleet of pirate ships passing by in the background. Planetary Panic Zone looks like an apocalyptic world full of lava. There's many more stages than this in the game, but this gives you an idea at the outstanding variety that Overbound games included. And I love how each finished stage seamlessly transitions into the next one. Sonic Time Twisted borrows one of the best features from Sonic CD. Most stages have two versions, where you can travel to the past or into the far future and experience what they look like in those times. For example, Attraction Attack Zone includes an amusement park under the control of Dr. Robotnik's robots. But if you travel to the past, it's still under construction and the level looks totally different. And time travel also affects the bonus stages you can play through by finding secret warp rings, where you find yourself in a race against Metal Sonic. If you win the race, you get a time stone, and if you're in the future, you get a Chaos Emerald. There's 7 of each hidden throughout the game, and collecting them all allows you to unlock the power of Super Sonic, the secret final Galactic Gauntlet Zone, and the true ending of the game. And it's no easy task collecting them all. On my first playthrough, I only found about 4 of them total, so it does require some digging, but any great retro game makes the player work towards the reward. Power-ups from previous Sonic games are also included, such as the Bubble Shield that allows you to bounce and breathe underwater, and the Fire Shield that protects you from fire, and allows you to blast forward. But there's also some original ones, like the Rock Shield that lets you throw rocks at enemies and avoid damage from spikes. But the 2 aspects of Sonic Time Twisted I want to highlight above all others are the soundtrack and the boss battles. One of the best soundtracks I've heard in a fan-made project, and even in a Sonic game. It's a completely original soundtrack, and it was created with just as much effort as the rest of the game was. Just listen to some of these tracks. And the boss battles are also some of the best I've seen in a Sonic game. In classic Sonic video games, the bosses were usually just Dr. Robotnik in different vehicles each time. The variety of bosses seen in Sonic Time Twisted came off to me as extremely creative. There's a robot with double arm cannons that shoots lasers at you, another boss that spins his arms around and the goal is to trick it into damaging itself, another that pounds its fist into the ground, forcing you to avoid its attacks until the weak point is exposed, a robot bee that shoots lasers at the ground, with Metal Sonic interrupting the fight to send flying obstacles around the screen, a giant whale that dives around and smashes into the level, causing rocks to fall. And even Emperor Metallix from the Sonic the Hedgehog comic books makes an appearance, and he looks awesome. But the final boss is completely ridiculous, and I mean that in the most excellent way possible. Metal Sonic resurrects Dr. Robotnik in the form of a giant robot called Galactic that resembles Marvel's Galactus. The arches pointing up on the side of Galactus' helmet are even recreated by Galactic's mustache. And this fight is not for players who give up easily, by the way. This game can be very difficult, as it should be. And this last fight requires you to continuously jump to avoid Galactic's energy blast, and his weak spot is his nose once he pops up from the bottom of the screen. But it's easy to accidentally miss a platform and lose a life. Once you beat him, if you collected all the Time Stones and Chaos Emeralds, you become Supersonic and fight him one last time, ending with Supersonic rocketing through his face and then his chest, ending him for good. Overall, the game played flawlessly in Windows, and I didn't experience any crashes, but I did run into some trouble starting it up. I'm unsure if it's because I'm running Windows 10 or if it's a bug, but sometimes it wouldn't even start up. Other times it would take a while to come up after I double-clicked on the game icon, but once it did start playing, it did work flawlessly. Sonic Time Twisted is a must-have game for any Sonic fan, or even someone who just happens to enjoy retro gaming. Overbound Games did a great job bringing back classic Sonic, and Sega needs to look into hiring these guys. Leave me your thoughts down below as always, guys, and remember to like, subscribe, sign up for notifications, and follow me on social media. This is Fabian. I love you all, and I'll see you next time.